Welcome to the Jurassic Jungle, where eco self-build meets cutting-edge smart home tech.
Hi and welcome back. This is the first in a series of videos that I'm going to do about our air source heat pump experience. I did a video a couple of years ago when I was going through the choices that I was making and some of the companies that I'd had quotes from. I didn't actually call out any of the names of them at the time and haven't done a video because whilst the heat pump went in November 2023, the house wasn't really complete enough for us to give realistic views on the economics of running the heat pump. So for certainly that first winter we still had, although we were watertight, we still had various parts of the building with wind blowing through them. So energy use was high, but yeah, that would have been the same with any sort of heat pump or gas boiler. So on this first video I want to go through the companies that I work with, what the prices were, my experience of working with them, and then as we go through this winter I'll be looking at the actual levels of utilisation. And as you may have seen in some of our previous videos, we've gone with solar panels, battery power, we've got an electric car, and the air source heat pump, so we're a fully electric house. We're very heavy users of electricity. Not only have we got the heat pump, we run a couple of furnished holiday lets and do all of the laundry here, so we've got something like 20 loads of washing and tumble drying most weeks. Overall that's been really successful through the summer. We've managed to balance that, so we've used almost no peak rate electricity from April through to October, and our bills have been around £50 a month for that period of time, and that's all of our motoring, all of the laundry that we do, and over that time obviously water heating but not space heating. So let's dive into the experience that we had of buying our air source heat pump. So on my previous video a couple of years ago I talked about the heat loss calculations but didn't name who the company was that had come and done those. So the first company that came here and did the survey was British Gas. An engineer for BG that did that survey is John Buckley, so got a lot of time for John. He spent quite a few hours here. The house wasn't finished, so we did a lot of heat loss calculations looking at the U values of the insulation and the windows and wall construction and all these sorts of things, and John came out with a heat loss of about 5 kilowatts. And a 180 litre hot water tank, and the price from British Gas for that was just £3,000 after the £5,000 grant, so a pretty aggressive quote. We'd had another quote from CB Heating. So CB Heating were working as a partnership with EDF at the time. I think they've since been actually bought out by EDF, so they're now installing under the EDF brand, and their original quote was quite a long way north of the British Gas quote. The CB Heating quote was about £9,000, so £6,000 more than the British Gas quote. So BG were about £3,000, CB Heating were at £9,000, and that's after the £5,000 grant. So that was a £14,000 initial installation cost for the heat pump and the tank. And we're not resizing any radiators. Obviously, I'm getting brand new underfloor heating installed separately to all of that. I'm putting in all of the plumbing for the bathrooms and kitchen and utility room and everything separate from that. So that was purely for the air source heat pump. So a pretty keen price from British Gas, a lot more from the CB Heating contact. So I did a lot of work with John looking at what the design was. They'd come up with a 6 kilowatt air source heat pump. I think it was a Daikin one, and 180 litre tank, and I was a little bit nervous that because we're going to have 3 bathrooms here, and whilst it's only 2 or 3 of us living here most of the time, when we've got guests we're going to have those bathrooms all in use at the same time. So I wanted a slightly bigger tank, 210 litres or maybe a little bit more. I also wanted to run the pipework from the tank to the air source heat pump underneath my garage floor. We actually insulated the garage floor, so we've got 100mm of Celotex, and I wanted to put the pipes in that layer of Celotex to outside. And the BG group were really looking for the low-hanging fruit on installations. They weren't looking to do anything different, weren't able to change the size of water tank that I wanted, and weren't necessarily prepared to allow me to put the pipes under the floor. So that was a little frustrating because working with John, you know, I thought he'd done a great job. The price from British Gas was very, very keen. At that point in time, CB Heating phoned me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm probably going with British Gas, but I'm trying to work out these couple of technical challenges." And they said, "We'll match the price." So I was pretty surprised at that. So they said, "Oh, we'll get close to matching the price. We can give you an additional £5,000 discount," which brought their price from £9,000 down to about £4,000. And I did a little bit of research to try and work out how they were being able to do that. I think they did tell me it was EDF that were funding that additional discount. And I searching around, what I found was a scheme which was going to penalise the boiler installers if they didn't install a certain percentage of heat pumps in comparison with gas boilers. And the fine for that was typically looking around £5,000. So I'm assuming that what EDF were looking to do was just use that £5,000 to avoid paying the penalty and being able to build up a larger installed base of air source heat pumps. So they were more flexible. I was also a little bit uncomfortable with the size of the air source heat pump that BG had quoted. They were down at 6 kilowatts, and I know you've got to size it as close as you can to the heat loss of the property, but I felt 6 was a little bit close if we didn't end up quite as close to that heat loss in reality. So we went with an 8 kilowatt Daikin air source heat pump with EDF and a 210 litre tank. It ended up being a few £100 more, but not much. And I got agreement from them if I paid for it to be able to put the pipework under the floor into the garage, or through the garage to the air source heat pump. So great job by British Gas initially. Sadly, because of those couple of points, I didn't go with them. I have recommended them to other people, and I've had a friend that's had a heat pump installed locally as well, where John also did the survey. So, you know, certainly go and look at British Gas. I would say, having looked at the discount that I got from CB Heating at the time, I don't think that's the case now. I think the penalties against the energy companies have been reduced very significantly, so I wouldn't expect to see price matching like that being available now. One of the things on that pricing is we got to this, and I think it was sort of September, October time, we were just looking to firm up the dates, and the grant for the air source heat pumps changed from £5,000 to £7,500. And because we hadn't actually contracted to move forwards, we could just restart the process, and that reduced the price. That would have reduced the British Gas price, for example, from £3,000 to just £500, and it reduced the price with CB Heating from £4,000 to £1,500. So, you know, much cheaper than installing a gas boiler. So really quite pleased with that. And the sort of second area that I started to get concerned was who was going to do the installation. So with British Gas, they said it might be their installers, there's a good chance it might be contractors, so you don't know who it is that is the end company that you're going to work with. And the way that CB Heating or EDF work is they do all of the central design. They did a remote heat loss calculation, so I gave them all of the information. They came out with a number pretty close to the British Gas number, I think, for heat loss. I think it was very slightly higher. But you know, some of that's down to interpretation. I'd expect those differences. They then work with a local contractor, and they put me in touch with a contractor. I think came out and did a site survey once I'd paid the deposit. And that was a company called Heat Fix Services, who are based in Bournemouth, and I was really pleased to find out that they were actually part of the Heat Geek network. So they're not just a plumbing installer, but they're a company that are prepared to look at and understand how heat pumps systems should be designed and should work. And if you watch my original video, or if you haven't, I'll put a link here. My concern was I was going to be buying a heat pump from one company, underfloor heating from another company, my home automation control system, and I was going to be the person stuck in the middle of it. Didn't work, and we did have an experience a little bit like that. So I was able to talk with the Heat Fix guys, and they also gave me a quote to design and install the underfloor heating, and to design and install the primary pipe work, so just running the main pipe work from the heat pump to the 3 bathrooms, kitchen, utility room, because we were going to do all of the bathroom installation and kitchen and those sorts of things ourselves. So had a quote from them for all of that work. Heatfix came out late summer, so I think September time in 2023, installed the underfloor heating pipes and manifolds, installed the basic pipe work and a recirculating pump. Because we're a bungalow here, it's actually quite a distance from the tank to some of the bathrooms, so we've got a recirculating loop which our home automation system triggers if you go into a bathroom in the morning to run a pump for I think 40 seconds, so that when you turn the hot tap on or the shower on, it's hot instantly. You're not running gallons of cold water waiting for it to warm up. So they did that basic installation and the pipe work under the garage floor to go from the location of the tank to the heat pump outside. We then worked with the builder to screed both the garage floor and all of the underfloor heating, and then the Heatfix guys came back and installed the tank and the air source heat pump, and that was November 2023, around that time. So why has it taken me 2 years to come back and start talking about the air source heat pump? So as we got to November, I think it was half term of 2023, we parted company with the builder that we've been working with. So there was still quite a lot to do. Various reasons we decided to continue with the build ourselves. So as we went into that first winter, whilst we were watertight, there was lots of the building that were certainly not airtight, with lots of air blowing through, and progress has been slow. We've done that work ourselves. We've had to learn how to do it. If you've watched my other videos, we've put in all the installation, the plasterboarding, the kitchens, the bathrooms, and it's taken us a couple of years to do all of that work. So for that first winter, and indeed last winter, we didn't have insulation in the loft. We had a ceiling missing from one of the rooms open into the loft, so a lot of cold air moving around. So no matter what energy source you were going to be using, the energy use would have been high. I will say with the underfloor heating, the house is superbly comfortable. It was definitely warm enough, and as I go through into this winter, I'll be looking at what the actual consumption is and how we're controlling the system with our Loxone automation rather than just the standard Daikin controls, and going through those technologies and our experience with it so far. So I hope this video has given you a view of the choices, the companies that we work with. I'd certainly look at British Gas, I'd certainly look at EDF, but those price matching things that I had probably not going to be around now. But my experience with Heatfix services as a heat geek were very good indeed. So very happy with those choices, but I'll go into detail of what our actual experience with the heat pump has been over the next couple of videos. So sorry for the long delay. I know a number of you have been messaging me asking me to talk about the heat pump experience because you're looking at it yourselves, and I'll be going into more detail on that. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I've got a series of other videos on the green technologies that we've installed here, so please go and take a look at those. If you've liked this video, please click like, and I thank all of you. I really appreciate the time that you give to not only watch my videos, but give feedback and engagement, either here on YouTube, or a number of people have reached out to me directly around some of the technology choices and the partners that we've worked with. So once again, thank you so much for your time.